She gave her last $12 to a stranger at the bus station. Then he returned as the manager who never forgot. The last $12 in Emily Parker's wallet was supposed to last 3 days. 3 days of instant noodles, discounted bread, and the cheapest carton of milk she could find. Instead, by the end of that night, she would give every dollar away to a stranger she would probably never see again, and somehow that decision would change both of their lives. Seattle was wrapped in cold rain that December evening. Not the dramatic kind that arrived with thunder and lightning. Just the steady gray drizzle that seemed determined to soak through every layer of clothing and optimism a person had left. Emily stepped out of the coffee shop where she worked evenings and checked her phone. 10:42 p.m. Her feet hurt. Her back hurt. And her bank account was performing a convincing impression of a ghost town. At 19, she was juggling community college classes, a tiny studio apartment, and 2 part-time jobs. Most weeks felt like a carefully balanced tower of unpaid bills and caffeine. Tonight was worse. Her landlord had raised the rent. Her old Honda needed repairs, and her paycheck was still 4 days away. She opened her worn wallet while walking toward the Greyhound station. A $10 bill, 2 $1 bills. That was it. $12. She sighed. "Congratulations, Emily," she muttered. "You are officially one financial emergency away from becoming a motivational quote." The bus station was crowded with travelers escaping the cold. Families, students, night shift workers, people dragging suitcases larger than their hopes. Emily stopped near a vending machine, mentally calculating how much food she could buy without destroying next week's budget. That was when she noticed him. A man sat alone near the far wall, late 20s maybe. His dark coat was wrinkled. His beard looked like it had lost an argument with a razor several days earlier. An old suitcase rested beside his feet. He kept glancing toward the small sandwich counter, then looking away, then looking back again. Emily watched for a moment. There was something painfully familiar about that expression. Not hunger, embarrassment, the kind that came when you needed help and hated yourself for needing it. She knew that look because she had worn it before. The man stood, walked halfway toward the counter, checked something on his phone, then immediately turned around. Back to the chair, back to staring at the floor. Emily frowned. Maybe he was stranded. Maybe someone had left him. Maybe he was homeless. Or maybe she was projecting her own bad week onto a complete stranger. Still, the feeling wouldn't leave. What Emily didn't know was that the man was Noah Bennett, 28 years old. 3 months earlier, he had been the founder of a startup he believed would change his life. 3 months later, the company was gone. The investors had walked away. The debts remained. That morning, Noah had sold his last valuable possession, his car, to pay part of what he owed. Now he was heading back to Seattle with a nearly empty bank account and the crushing certainty that he had failed. Not just professionally, personally. The sandwich counter might as well have been a mile away, because even spending a few dollars felt irresponsible when he wasn't sure what came next. Emily didn't know any of that. She only knew the man looked like he hadn't eaten, so she did what she always did. Something impractical. She bought a sandwich. Then she attempted a rescue mission. A very bad rescue mission. Trying not to embarrass him, she walked past his chair and casually dropped a $5 bill near his suitcase. The plan lasted approximately 3 seconds. "Miss," Noah called. Emily froze. "You dropped this." He held up the bill. "Oh," she forced a smile. "No, that's yours." "No, it isn't." "Yes, it is." For several moments they stared at each other. A strange tennis match played by 2 people who clearly could not afford the ball. Finally Noah stood. "I'm not taking your money." "Good," Emily said. "Because technically it's sandwich money. Then definitely don't give it away. Too late. That's not how ownership works." "It is tonight." Against all logic, Noah almost laughed. It was the first time he had come close to laughing in weeks. Emily reached into her wallet, then paused. She looked down at the remaining bills. $10, 2 ones, everything she had until payday. Common sense told her to stop, walk away, take care of herself first. Instead, she pulled the money out and pressed it toward him. Noah stared. "What are you doing?" "Making a terrible financial decision." "Keep it." "No. Seriously. Seriously. No." His expression hardened. "You don't even know me." Emily shrugged. "Maybe not." She gently pushed the bills into his hand. "Maybe one day you'll help somebody else." The words landed harder than she intended. For a moment, Noah simply looked at her, not at the money, at her, because at that point, he wasn't sure he could help anybody. He wasn't even sure he could help himself. A loud announcement echoed through the station. Emily's bus had arrived. She stepped backward. "Good luck, stranger." Then, she grabbed her backpack and hurried toward the gate. Noah remained standing. The bills felt strangely heavy in his hand. Through the bus window, he caught one last glimpse of her finding a seat near the back. Rain streaked across the glass. The bus engine growled to life, and a few moments later, it disappeared into the Seattle night. Emily never looked back. She had no reason to. As far as she knew, she had just given away her last $12 to a man she would never meet again. But behind her, standing alone in the station, Noah Bennett continued watching until the taillights vanished, and without fully understanding why, he memorized her face. 3 years passed. Emily Parker learned that life did not fall apart all at once. It frayed. A class dropped here. A bill delayed there. A dream folded carefully into a drawer because rent had to be paid first. At 22, she was no longer in community college. She told people she was taking a break because that sounded better than admitting the break had taken her. Tuition had become impossible after her hours were cut at the cafe. Then her rent went up. Then her old Honda began making a sound like a fork trapped in a blender. By spring, Emily was working mornings at a bakery, evenings at a call center, and still losing ground. Her best friend Sarah Nguyen called it being overemployed and underfunded. Emily called it Tuesday. So when she saw the opening at Harborview Boutique Hotel, she applied before she could talk herself out of it. Front desk associate, full-time, health benefits, predictable shifts, a salary that did not look like someone had chosen the number out of personal dislike. On the morning of the interview, Emily wore her only blazer, which had a stubborn wrinkle on one sleeve. She sat in the hotel lobby beneath a chandelier that probably cost more than her car and tried not to look like she was mentally calculating whether the free mints were for guests only. A woman from HR greeted her and led her upstairs. "The general manager will be joining us," the woman said. Emily nodded as if she regularly met general managers and did not immediately imagine them as people who owned matching luggage. The conference room had a glass wall overlooking the harbor. Emily sat, folded her hands, unfolded them, then folded them again. Then the door opened, and the man who walked in stopped. So did Emily's breathing. He wore a navy suit now, clean-shaven, confident, his hair neatly styled. Nothing about him resembled the exhausted stranger with the wrinkled coat and old suitcase from the Greyhound station. Except his eyes. Emily knew those eyes. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. The HR woman smiled politely. "Emily Parker, this is Noah Bennett, our general manager." Noah looked at Emily as if a door had opened in his life that he had thought was permanently closed. "Emily Parker," he repeated softly. Emily's smile turned uncertain. "Have we met?" A flicker of something almost amused crossed his face. "Yes," he said, "but you were in a hurry." Emily searched her memory. Hospital? Cafe? Angry customer? Someone whose latte she had accidentally made with oat milk instead of regular milk. Then he said, very quietly, "I still owe you $12. The room tilted. The bus station came back in pieces. Rain on glass. A sandwich counter. A man refusing a $5 bill like it was an insult. Her own voice, younger and more reckless, saying, 'Maybe one day you'll help somebody else.'" Emily's mouth opened. "Oh my God." Noah smiled. But it wasn't casual. It carried 3 years of memory. "You remember. I gave money to a stranger at a bus station and then survived on vending machine crackers for 2 days. Yes, eventually the trauma came back." The HR woman looked between them. "I'm sorry. $12? Emily's face went hot. "It's not as strange as it sounds." Noah's expression suggested it was exactly as strange as it sounded. But instead of making a joke, he opened the leather notebook in front of him. From the inside pocket, he carefully removed 3 old bills, 1 10 and 2 ones, flattened and preserved. Emily stared. "You kept them?" "I tried to spend them the next morning," he said. "I couldn't." "Why?" "Because I was having the worst week of my life. And a 19-year-old girl who clearly didn't have much decided I was still worth helping." Emily looked down, overwhelmed by the strange tenderness of it. "I thought you were hungry." "I was." So why didn't you buy food? I did. Later. With different money. A small smile touched his mouth. Your $12 became something else. What? A reminder not to disappear. The words settled between them, too intimate for a conference room, with an HR representative and a pitcher of lemon water. Emily did not know what to say, so she said the least elegant thing available. Well, I'm glad you didn't disappear. Noah looked at her then, really looked, and the room seemed to narrow around the two of them. The interview resumed, but Emily barely trusted her own voice for the first 5 minutes. She answered questions about customer service, conflict resolution, scheduling, and hospitality, while trying not to think about those old bills lying on the table, like evidence that one tiny act of kindness had outlived everything she had expected of it. Noah was professional after that, painfully professional. He asked fair questions. He took notes. He did not smile too much. He did not make her feel pitied. In fact, he challenged her twice, especially when she tried to make light of working 3 jobs. Being overextended isn't a flaw, he said, but pretending it doesn't affect you can become one. Emily blinked. That was either advice or a very elegant warning. Both. By the end, Emily was certain she had ruined it by being nervous, emotional, and possibly too honest about once calming an angry bakery customer with a free muffin and a sincere apology. But 2 days later, Harborview called. She got the job. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, phone still in hand, and laughed so hard she cried. What she did not know was that Noah had not pushed HR to hire her. In fact, he had done the opposite. After the interview, he had stepped out of the room and asked the hiring team to evaluate her exactly as they would anyone else. No favors, he had said. No gratitude hire. If she gets this position, she earns it. And when the HR director later placed Emily's application at the top of the list, Noah only nodded. Because he had remembered her face for 3 years, but he wanted her to enter Harborview as herself, not as a debt finally paid. Emily's first week at Harborview Boutique Hotel taught her 3 things. First, wealthy guests could become emotionally unstable over pillow firmness. Second, the lobby smelled faintly of citrus, expensive flowers, and quiet panic. Third, Noah Bennett was determined to act like he had not kept her $12 in a notebook for 3 years. He was professional, so professional it was almost rude. He greeted her in staff meetings with the same calm tone he used for everyone else. He corrected her gently when she transferred a call to the wrong department. He thanked her when she stayed late. He never mentioned the bus station again. Emily told herself this was good. Normal. Healthy. Slightly disappointing. Sarah, who worked part-time at the hotel restaurant and full-time as Emily's unofficial emotional investigator, disagreed. He either likes you, Sarah whispered during lunch, or he's a robot with excellent hair. Emily nearly choked on her soup. He's my manager. Robots can be managers. Sarah, I'm just saying. No normal man remembers $12 for 3 years unless he's either in love or built by engineers. Emily rolled her eyes. But later, when she saw Noah crossing the lobby with his sleeves rolled up and a phone pressed to his ear, she unfortunately thought, excellent hair is not inaccurate. Noah was good at his job in a way that made people stand straighter without feeling small. He noticed everything. A crooked welcome sign, a nervous trainee, a guest pretending not to be lost, a housekeeper limping slightly at the end of her shift. He knew that Marco from maintenance was taking night classes in electrical engineering. He knew Ruth at housekeeping was caring for her father after his stroke. He knew the breakfast cook needed extra hours because his wife was expecting twins. He remembered names, allergies, schedules, birthdays, and the fact that Emily hated being called kiddo by older guests. But for a man who could manage an entire hotel during a plumbing emergency and a wedding party meltdown on the same afternoon, Noah Bennett was completely defeated by the employee cappuccino machine. Emily found him one morning standing in front of it, like it had personally betrayed him. Steam hissed. Milk dripped. A sad brown puddle spread beneath the cup. Noah held the instruction card, frowning. It said press foam. Emily stepped beside him. You pressed clean. That seems poorly labeled. You also put the cup upside down. He looked at the cup, then at her. That may have contributed. The next day, he tried again and created what Sarah later called a dairy weather event. By Friday, Emily had become his unofficial coffee disaster response team. "You know," she said, wiping foam off the counter, "for someone who runs a hotel, you have a surprisingly hostile relationship with hospitality equipment. I delegate." "You surrendered." I made a strategic retreat. The corners of his mouth lifted, and for one brief second, the professional wall between them thinned. Emily found herself looking forward to those moments. Not because Noah flirted. He didn't. Not exactly. His kindness came in quieter forms. When a guest snapped at Emily for taking too long to find a restaurant reservation that did not exist, Noah appeared behind the desk not to take over, but to stand nearby. Afterward, he only said, "You handled that well." When Emily stayed late to help with a conference check-in, he left a sandwich in the staff fridge with her name on it. When she thanked him, he said, "It was extra." It was not extra. The receipt was still in the bag. She did not call him on it. Then came Mrs. Caldwell in room 814. She arrived with a pearl necklace, 3 designer suitcases, and the terrifying certainty of a woman who believed every inconvenience was evidence of moral collapse. Her reservation had been entered for the wrong weekend by an outside booking site. Emily checked twice, then a third time, her stomach tightening. "I'm sorry," Emily said. "I'm not showing an active reservation for tonight, but I can." Mrs. Caldwell leaned over the desk. "Young lady, I made that reservation 6 weeks ago. Are you telling me I imagined it?" "No, ma'am. I'm saying there may have been an issue with the third-party system." "Convenient." Guests in the lobby began to look over. Emily felt heat crawl up her neck. She searched available rooms. Nearly full. Citywide conference. 2 weddings. 1 junior suite left, but the rate difference was enormous. Mrs. Caldwell's voice sharpened. "This is incompetence." Noah stepped out from the side office. Emily's first instinct was relief, then dread. She expected him to take over completely, smooth the situation, rescue her, and leave her standing there like a child who had spilled something. Instead, he stopped beside her, not in front of her. "Emily," he said evenly, "what options do we have?" She blinked. He waited. The lobby waited. Emily looked back at the screen. Her hands were shaking, but her voice steadied. "We have 1 junior suite available. I can honor the original rate for tonight, because the error occurred through a booking partner. I can also contact the partner directly, and have them confirm responsibility for the discrepancy." Noah nodded. "And for the inconvenience?" Emily swallowed. "Complimentary breakfast and late checkout." Mrs. Caldwell turned to Noah. "Is this acceptable to you?" Noah looked at Emily. "It's Emily's solution. I think it's a good one." Something shifted inside her. Mrs. Caldwell, deprived of a larger battle, accepted with a stiff nod. When it was over, Emily stepped into the staff hallway and leaned against the wall. Noah followed, carrying no speech, no pity. "I thought you were going to fix it," she said. "You were fixing it. I was panicking. Both can be true." She laughed weakly. Noah's voice softened. "You don't need rescuing, Emily. You need backup." No one had ever said it that way before. People had helped her with a sad smile, praised her toughness while leaving her alone with it, called her strong when what they meant was convenient. But backup was different. Backup meant she still stood on her own feet. It just meant someone stood close enough that she did not have to face the whole room alone. Emily looked at Noah, and the old bus station memory changed shape between them. The $12 had not made him owe her. Maybe, somehow, it had taught them both what help could look like when it did not take away a person's dignity. By the end of Emily's 2nd month at Harborview, working late with Noah had become dangerously easy. Too easy. They handled a flooded laundry room at midnight, a bridal party missing 3 tuxedos, and a famous travel blogger who threatened to give the hotel 1 star because the rain looked depressing from the balcony. "It's Seattle," Emily whispered after the guest left. "Should we apologize to the sky?" Noah looked at the complaint form. "I'm drafting a formal letter to the clouds." She laughed so hard she had to sit down behind the front desk. That was the problem. He made her laugh when she was tired. He remembered she hated olives and picked them off shared takeout without asking. He noticed when she skipped dinner and quietly ordered extra noodles. He never made her feel small for needing help, but somehow always managed to be there when she did. After closing one long Friday night, they ate greasy tacos in the empty staff lounge, both too exhausted to pretend they had normal lives. Noah loosened his tie. This may be the best meal I've had all week." Emily looked at the foil-wrapped taco leaking onto his plate. "That is either sweet or deeply concerning. Both." From the doorway, Walter Green, the hotel owner, paused just long enough to see them laughing over hot sauce packets. He said nothing. But the next morning, Sarah began collecting bets. "What is this?" Emily asked, finding a paper taped inside the staff break room cabinet. Sarah slammed the cabinet shut. "Inventory. It says, date Noah finally asks Emily out. Emotional inventory. Half the staff had signed up. Marco guessed 2 weeks. Ruth guessed Christmas. The breakfast cook wrote, after one more coffee machine incident." Emily's face went hot. "This is wildly inappropriate." Sarah nodded. "Yes, but morale has improved. The worst part was that Emily wanted to laugh. The even worse part was that she wanted the bet to be right. But wanting was dangerous. Because whenever Noah looked at her too long, whenever his hand brushed hers passing a key card, whenever his voice softened around her name, the same question returned. Did he see her? Or did he see that girl at the bus station? The 19-year-old who had given him $12 when he was broken? Emily hated the thought, but she could not stop it. Gratitude could look a lot like affection if it lasted long enough. A debt could disguise itself as devotion, and Emily had spent too many years being useful to people who confused needing her with loving her. One evening, after a city-wide power outage forced Harborview onto backup generators, Emily and Noah worked side by side for 4 hours. They calmed guests, handed out flashlights, redirected elevators, and somehow kept a lobby full of annoyed people from becoming a documentary about social collapse. At one point, Noah handed Emily a clipboard and said, "You're better with frightened people than anyone I've ever met." The compliment touched something tender. "You mean poor people skills?" she joked. "No," he said. "I mean you know how to make people feel less alone." She looked away first. Later, while delivering updated guest forms to Walter's office, Emily heard voices inside. Noah's voice. "I know it complicates things," he said. Walter answered gently. "Does she know?" A pause. "No. And I don't want her feeling responsible for it." Emily froze outside the half-open door. Walter sighed. "Noah, gratitude is not the same as love. I know that. Do you?" Another pause. Then Noah said quietly, "Meeting her changed my life." Emily stopped breathing. The words should have warmed her. Instead, they landed like proof of every fear she had been trying to outrun. Meeting her changed my life. Not Emily makes me happy. Not I love who she is now. Just the story. The bus station. The $12. The girl who had appeared at his lowest moment and become some symbol he carried in his notebook. Emily stepped backward before either man could see her. That night, she went home with a strange ache in her chest. The next morning, she changed shifts with Sarah. The day after that, she volunteered for back-office inventory. When Noah came to the front desk, she found a reason to check the storage room. When he asked if everything was all right, she smiled too brightly and said, "Totally. Just busy." He knew she was lying. But Emily had spent years perfecting cheerful distance, and for the first time since joining Harborview, she wished Noah Bennett had never kept those $12 at all. Noah noticed Emily pulling away before she admitted she was doing it. She stopped taking late shifts when he was scheduled. She answered his questions with polite, efficient sentences. She smiled at him the way she smiled at guests who complained about rain. Pleasant, distant, impossible to reach. For 3 days, he tried to respect the space. On the 4th, Sarah cornered him near the staff elevator. "I don't know what you did," she said, "but Emily is organizing supply closets for emotional avoidance." Noah frowned. "That specific?" She alphabetized towel sizes. "That's not possible." "Exactly." That evening, he found Emily in the storage room, counting shampoo bottles like they had personally betrayed her. "Emily." She didn't turn. "We're low on lavender conditioner." "I don't care about lavender conditioner. That seems like a managerial failure." "Please look at me." The quiet in his voice made her stop. She turned, holding a clipboard against her chest like armor. Noah stood in the doorway, tired and careful. "Did I do something?" Emily looked down. "No, that's not true." She laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You want truth? Yes. I heard you talking to Walter. His expression changed. You said meeting me changed your life. Her voice trembled. And maybe that sounds beautiful to you, but to me it sounds like a museum label. Like I'm some framed little story about kindness at a bus station. Emily, I don't want to be your moral debt. The words came faster now. I don't want to be the girl who gave you $12 when you were broken, so now you have to be good to her forever. I don't want gratitude wearing a nicer coat and calling it self-love. Noah went very still. Emily's eyes shone, but she refused to cry. If you like me because of who I was for 5 minutes 3 years ago, then you don't really like me. You like what I represented when you needed something to believe in. For a long moment, only the faint hum of the storage room lights filled the space between them. Then Noah stepped inside. Not too close. I never spent your $12 that night, he said. Emily blinked. What? I bought food later. With change I found in my suitcase and a coupon from the station. Terrible sandwich. Possibly illegal mayonnaise. His mouth twitched, then faded. But I kept your money. I know. You showed me. No, I mean I kept it with me. For months. Emily's grip loosened on the clipboard. Noah looked past her, as if seeing another version of himself. After that night, I slept on a friend's couch. I applied for jobs I thought were beneath me because pride was easier than hunger until hunger won. I got rejected. A lot. I almost left Seattle twice. His voice lowered, and every time I wanted to quit, I looked at that 10 and those 2 ones. Emily swallowed. Not because $12 was going to save me. It couldn't. Not because I thought a stranger owed me a future. You didn't. He looked back at her. I kept it because on the worst night of my life, a girl who clearly had less than I did treated me like I was still capable of becoming someone decent. Emily's eyes filled despite herself. I did not build my life because of you, Noah said. That would be too much to put on anyone. I built it because I needed to. But your kindness helped me survive long enough to try. She looked away, shaken. And yes, he continued quietly, meeting you changed my life. But that is not why I want you in it now. Emily barely breathed. Noah took one careful step closer. I didn't fall in love with the girl who gave me $12. Her face crumpled. I fell in love with the woman who keeps showing up for people when nobody's watching. The clipboard slipped lower in her hands. With the woman who remembers Ruth's father has physical therapy on Thursdays, who traded shifts so Marco could take his final exam, who stays calm when guests are cruel, then cries in the restroom for exactly 2 minutes and comes back with a better plan. His voice softened. The woman who thinks she has to earn her place by being useful, when everyone around her already knows she matters. That broke her. Emily turned away, but the tears came fast and silent. Noah did not touch her until she nodded. Then he stepped close and took her hand. Not like a manager, not like a man paying back a debt, like someone asking permission to stand beside her. I don't need you to be my symbol, he said. I want the real person, the tired one, the stubborn one, the one who thinks gas station sandwiches are a food group and threatens coffee machines when they beep. A wet laugh escaped her. I do not threaten coffee machines. You once told the cappuccino machine it had one more chance to be part of society. It knew what it did. Noah smiled, but his eyes were bright. Emily looked at him through tears. For years, she had been loved most when she was useful, praised most when she needed the least, admired most when she could carry pain without asking anyone to notice. But Noah had noticed. Not the old version of her, preserved in one generous moment. Her, now. Flawed, exhausted, still trying, and for the first time in a long while, Emily let herself be seen without immediately trying to deserve it. 1 year later, Emily Parker no longer checked her bank account, with one eye closed. Not because life had become easy. It hadn't. Her Honda still made a suspicious noise in cold weather. Rent was still rude. Seattle still charged $12 for salads that looked emotionally unavailable. But Emily had become guest relations supervisor at Harborview, and for the first time in years, her life felt less like survival and more like something she was allowed to build. Noah was still general manager. They had taken their time. No dramatic confession in the lobby. No secret romance hidden behind supply shelves. No reckless rush just because the feelings were real. They waited until HR paperwork was clean, reporting lines were clear, and Emily could say yes without wondering whether gratitude or authority had tilted the answer. Sarah hated this. "You two made emotional maturity very inconvenient for my betting pool," she complained. "You bet on our first date?" Emily asked. "Half the hotel did." Noah looked mildly alarmed. "Half?" Sarah smiled. "The other half bet on the first kiss." Eventually, the staff organized a surprise celebration in the break room with a crooked banner that read, "The most profitable $12 investment in Seattle history." Emily covered her face. Noah stared at the cake. "Is that a frosting bus station?" Marco nodded proudly. "With edible emotional trauma." Ruth handed Emily a card signed by everyone. Sarah whispered, "You're welcome. I chose tasteful embarrassment." Later that evening, after the laughter faded and the hotel settled into its soft nighttime rhythm, Noah asked Emily to walk with him. They ended up near the old Greyhound station. It looked smaller than Emily remembered. Less dramatic. Just glass, concrete, vending machines, and tired travelers waiting beneath fluorescent lights. Noah stopped outside and handed her a small frame. Inside were 3 old bills. 1 10, 2 1s. Emily stared at them through the glass. "You framed them? I thought it was better than keeping them in a notebook forever." She looked up. "Now we're even?" Noah smiled softly. "Not even close." Emily's throat tightened. He took her hand, and together they walked past the station windows, where strangers sat with backpacks, suitcases, bad coffee, and private heartbreaks no one else could see. For Noah, this place had once been proof that he had failed. For Emily, it had been one cold night when she gave away money she needed because someone else looked like he needed hope more. Neither of them had understood what had begun there. Not rescue. Not debt. Not a fairy tale. Just one human being seeing another at the exact moment they were afraid they had become invisible. Emily leaned her head against Noah's shoulder. "You know," she said, "I really did need that $12. I know. That sandwich better have been spiritually meaningful." "It was terrible." She laughed. Noah squeezed her hand. And under the gray Seattle sky, outside the place where his life had nearly ended and theirs had quietly begun, Emily finally understood. Love had not grown because of $12. It had grown because both of them remembered what kindness felt like when no one was watching, and chose, again and again, to become worthy of it. Before we end this story, let's take a moment to reflect on something simple but powerful. Emily's $12 didn't change Noah's life because of the amount. It changed his life because of what it represented. At his lowest moment, when he felt like a failure, a stranger looked at him and saw someone still worth helping. And sometimes that's what people need most, not money, not solutions, not miracles, just one person who refuses to believe they're beyond hope. The lesson in this story isn't that kindness always comes back to you. Most of the time, it doesn't. Most acts of kindness happen quietly, with no reward, no recognition, and no guarantee that they'll matter. But every once in a while, years later, you discover that a small decision you barely remember became a turning point in someone else's story. And maybe that's enough. Imagine you're sitting in that bus station on the worst day of your life. Would one small act of kindness from a stranger have made a difference? Or maybe you've been the person who offered help when nobody else noticed someone was struggling. Either way, those moments matter more than we often realize. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's the smallest act of kindness you've ever received that you still remember years later? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories. Thank you for spending your time with us. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most valuable thing you can give someone isn't money. It's the feeling that they still matter. See you in the next story on Soul Stirring Stories.